Hello, Robert. Are we ready for this?
We certainly are ready for this. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to your hero's journey, a journey inspired by the work of mythologist Joseph Campbell and others. Caroline, I'm really looking forward to us bringing the hero's journey to life for everybody. We're
Well,
going to
I
be weaving this wonderful mix of teachings and practices from world mythology, spiritual traditions, modern psychology, and classic literature. It's a it's a class really in helping us to live our lives more fully, with greater moral courage, with a greater sense of vision and a greater sense of purpose. And I'm super excited, Caroline. Thank you for saying yes to this journey, and thank you to everybody for being on it.
well, and thank you, Robert, for suggesting it. Robert brought this up to me quite some time ago, and he's a brilliant mythologist, and it appealed to everything that I know about the archetypal realm and the archetypal journey, and nothing is more archetypal than the hero's journey. And I thought, what a perfect time! What a perfect time, because I think I really do believe that we're living at a time when we're between worlds. You know, our consciousness is truly expanding to include our archetypal nature. Actually, our unconscious is becoming gradually more conscious, and as that happens, I think we will start recognizing that everything in our life is incredibly choreographed according to archetypal dynamics, among which is the hero's journey. And how different would your life be if you were to recognize that the chaos you're in is actually a stage of an archetypal journey? How then would you navigate, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you and I have talked about the hero's journey over the years together, in many different settings, often over dinner, in between talks we've been giving at various Hay House events and that type of thing.
Absolutely.
And, it was long been a dream of mine for us to collaborate on this together. And so this is our moment. I think it's, as you say, it's a super relevant model. It's highly appropriate for now. It's incredibly supportive. And I think my great hope is that by taking the hero's journey together, we're going to be supporting people truly in living a purpose-centered life. So,
You know,
yeah.
I told Robert this morning as we had a warm up conversation for the class, and I said, honestly, because he's been such a gift in my life and such an influence and a friend, a colleague, but also in the richest way, someone whose work I turn to personally, and as a friend. So I get the best of all worlds with him. But I used this class as a
Mm.
reference for someone very close to me who I know I recognized was in the first stage of this hero's journey. What will be next class? So it's when it's the end of normal. I recognized that's the stage at which this young boy is at. And everything he was describing, everything, the falling apart of his life, the not knowing where to go, everything. I knew exactly. So I knew exactly what the next stage would be, and then the next stage. And I wanted to get him locked into that and say, if you only knew the passages. Robert has outlined these passages, 12 of them. So it's 12, isn't it 12? So
Well, yeah, you can count them up in different ways. There's so much to explore here.
it's so much, it's so rich. It's
Mm,
so incredible to see how the universe has left nothing out of sequence.
yeah.
Nothing is random, but it looks random.
Mhm.
Nothing is out of order, but it looks chaotic. It's so incredible when you get to a place where you can see with archetypal eyes.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. With archetypal eyes. Absolutely. And Joseph Campbell's work for sure is one of those maps that encourages us to do that, that shows us that every great myth, every great archetype, every great story is relevant to us. These are not about everybody else. They are about you and I, and our presence here in the world matters, and it matters more than ever. And we get to vote every day of our life for being truly, truly present in the world and being a force for good in the world too.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how about we've laid a table for you. I think that's maybe a good way of putting it. We've laid a table for you. We've created a feast. And I think just as we set the scene a little bit here, I want you to know that in each class, Caroline and I will be sharing personal experiences of living our hero's journey. But we'll also call upon wisdom and inspiration from Carl Jung, Teresa of Avila, St. Francis of Assisi, for example, and also storytelling. Storytelling from Tolkien and Shakespeare and Eliot and C.S. Lewis and
You
Robert
are so
Frost.
English.
Yeah. And the Wizard of Oz and the
Right.
Lord of the Rings and the Matrix and the Dead Poets Society. You'll see this program, Your Hero's Journey, is designed to support you in honoring your sacred contract, awakening your divine potential. It's designed to help you to live a purpose-centered life, to say yes to your higher purpose, and also to say yes to your soul's high adventure. Take a note of those words, your soul's high adventure. That's a phrase that was coined by Joseph Campbell. Now, on this journey, we will experience 7 classes, and each one will be somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes in length. I encourage you to bring a journal. Make sure you have a journal, pen and paper. There will be assignments and deepening exercises. You are on a journey. This is not spiritual entertainment, and we will be doing deep inner work together. Some recommended reading for this journey, just in case you haven't already read Sacred Contracts. Make sure you have a copy of that to hand, and if you have already read it, then make sure you you look at all the bits that you underlined when you read through it the first time or even the second time, because we will be referring to your sacred contract. But also my book, Higher Purpose, where I've written quite a lot about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. But then as we get closer to the source of this class, I would recommend this book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. This is the great work, Caroline. Yeah. Amazing. When did you first come across this book?
I bow to that book.
Yeah. This is one of those books you might give a lot of books away in your time, but this is one of those ones you sort of want to hang on to, isn't it?
That's right. That's the one that goes with us to the island.
Yeah, there we go. Absolutely right. Now, also, another book that I love is the Joseph Campbell Companion.
Yes.
Yeah, this one's in some ways a little bit more readable and very, very good. One more recommendation for now would be to watch The Power of Myth, the PBS special, which even to this day is still the most watched PBS special in history. This is the special, which is a conversation between Bill Moyes and Joseph Campbell in 6 parts, held in 2 places, Skywalker Ranch, because Joseph Campbell was the mentor to George Lucas, the creator of the Star Wars series, and also at the American History Museum as well in New York. A riveting conversation, a conversation I never tire of watching. I think I've recommended I can't count how many people I've recommended Power of Myth to, but it's available on one of the platforms somewhere right now. It changes about a bit, but those would be some of the recommended readings, and we will make more recommendations for you along the way as well. This class 1, we are setting the scene for your hero's journey. we're going to work with a map, the Hero's Journey map, which we will show you in a little while, and also which we will give to you for your studies. We're going to be looking at the 3 stages of the hero's journey, the 3 stages which are similar to the 3 acts of Greek drama that follow a universal pattern of inner growth and transformation. And also in this class, we're going to be looking at the Holy Grail legend, the journey of your life, the journey that we are on separately and collectively. Do you know what your Holy Grail is? We will also look at the hero archetype and how this relates to you. And also, one more thing, the myth that inspires you, the myth that brings you alive. And by myth here, we are referring to the great story, the great work, the universal purpose that you want to be part of in this lifetime. So I hope that sets the scene for us to embark upon our journey and to commence our first class. And we're going to start with some opening thoughts on the hero's journey. And I wonder, Caroline, if you'd be kind enough just to tell us a little bit about why you love the hero's journey so much and why you think it's relevant and important for now.
That was a beautiful, beautiful introduction. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
It inspires me, and I'm inspired already by you. So, but one of the many thoughts that occurred to me as you were um, reintroducing this wonderful work and introducing it, and Joseph Campbell, is I thought to myself, why is the power of myth so popular? Why is his work so? Why would I take that to an island with me? Because I wasn't kidding. Why would that be? Why is it one of the books that's behind my desk? I have in my library, the books are ordered not just by subject but by importance, by how I need to get to them. And the books behind me are the ones that I need all the time. Like some people can work anywhere. I can't. Robert. I have to work in this messy office with all these books because I need to get, I have to have access to Joseph Campbell. I have to have access to Teresa of Avila. I have to have access to the scriptures. And that's behind me, and that's where Joseph Campbell is. Right.
Very good.
And so, and on this side are books. Well, maybe I don't have to. They're sitting over. It's that kind of thing. And then there's the books on the lower floor. I mean, it just this is a house of books. And as you were talking, it occurred to me, because I follow your thoughts with my heart and my soul as I go. And I realized that when I read Joseph Campbell or other people whose work is so what is inspiration? What is that? What is it about that his work when he talks about a truth that is for all of us? What is it about collective truth that elevates us to a place where we feel like somehow we feel high? There's a spiritual high that comes from it. It is, at least for me, there's a spiritual high. It's as if I get a window into how all of us are and what all of us have in common and what all of us are sharing in this. And when I get to that level, we call it a level of consciousness. I don't know what you want to call it. But what happens is I have a visceral reaction. And I think that visceral reaction is like my soul is acknowledging that I am coming in contact with a truth. And this truth has the capacity to change my life. So threaded into me. And that's why I get so high when I'm near a truth that illuminates. And it's like Teresa would say, when God gets into your soul, just for a second, it's enough for a lifetime. That's what happens when I get near a truth. I think that's why my whole life, that's what I've been addicted to. That's what I've been addicted to, is that incredible this truth, this will change my life. And how it changes is that it ignites a journey. It's
Yep.
not necessarily it's not going to take me down the some pathway or walk the Camino again. It's not going to do that. It's an inner journey into a way that I've never before understood life. And included in that is that I see people all over again, people I love dearly, but now I see them and I understand them more deeply, which means I love them more deeply. And I find that I calm down with life more deeply and I love my life more deeply. My whole journey is reorganized. That's a hero's journey.
Yeah.
And if
Wow.
we could give that to others,
Hmm.
you know, and it's really like getting high on a truth. And then that truth, and I think this is what it's like when you talk about like what is your myth? What is your myth? Maybe we'll answer that question later, but because you asked that as we organized this class, I spent a lot of time thinking about that
Yeah.
because I these are such rich questions. You're not an ordinary mortal. I mean, it's not like you're asking me what my favorite wine is, but um, it's exactly those
Mhm.
questions that as our students pursue this, what happens is it changes your relationship with the power you have to live your own life,
Mm.
the power you have to empower your own life, no matter what's happening on the outside, that you gradually get the truth that power is about navigating and managing the journey of life no matter what's happening around you. Life will not deliver, you deliver.
And I love how you say it's for navigating our life, and that's very much how I see the hero's journey. It's something that you want to keep in your spiritual backpack because you're going to need to pull out the hero's journey for strength, for resilience, for comfort when you are at different stages in your journey. I know for myself, I often call upon the hero's journey when, for example, I'm in transition and I know that I'm somehow between chapters in my life. I
Mhm.
know that I can't repeat the past, however good it was. I know I can't be a repeat of myself. There's something new coming. I'm not sure what it is yet. I turn to the hero's journey for faith, for comfort, and for resolve. When I'm working on big projects that require courage and faith and guidance and inspiration, projects that feel bigger than me, I'll often think about the hero's journey and what it feels like to be swallowed by up in the belly of the whale. But also knowing that actually, even in that process of being swallowed up by in the belly of the whale, in that darkness is a chance for a birth and a new beginning somehow. I'll often call upon the hero's journey when I'm feeling lost, when I feel like I'm without a compass, no North Star, and I can't quite see the way ahead. When I've had my dark nights of the soul, Caroline, I've some part of me has been able to say, it's okay. You're on a hero's journey, Robert. Something is dying, but something is also being born. And so that's how it's helped me personally, but then also to be able to share the hero's journey in my coaching and mentoring work, and also in my leadership work, by the way. That's probably where I've shared it the most. I think the leadership journey is a hero's journey.
Mhm.
To be a leader in the world, you have to be more and more of your true self, and that takes a hero's journey. So yeah, so that's how
No,
I'll
to be
often call it.
I'm gonna jump in here. To
Yeah.
be a good and integrous leader,
Yes, exactly.
you can be a lot of kind of leaders,
That's right.
but to be a really integrous leader.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, that's so true. We can look at that together as we go as well. I want to say that I think knowing about the hero's journey is also especially helpful for now because, Caroline, as you already mentioned, I do think we are all of us individually and collectively experiencing the death of normal. Anybody who's still trying to hang on to normal, honestly, you know, it's slipping out of your fingers, and it's meant to. Let's just say that it's meant to. The old normal was not good enough for enough of us. We can do better than we've done. There's a better normal to come, and there'll be, you know, there's a journey to be had. And so for any of us experiencing the death of normal, as disconcerting and destabilizing as that is, knowing about the hero's journey will, I think, give you a greater sense of security and faith, and it will help you to know what to do. I think that humanity is being asked to reimagine itself at present. I believe that we're all being called now to take the greatest stride of soul ever took. That's a line from a poem, A Sleep of Prisoners by
The sleep
Christopher Fry.
prisoners. Yeah.
It's lovely, isn't it? The greatest stride
Sleep
of soul ever took.
took.
Yeah, like a leap in our consciousness and in our maturity. We're being asked to make this transformation, both inner and outer, that will help us to live with greater purpose, meaning, and inspiration. And this is what the hero's journey is for.
Could I jump in for a moment?
Please.
Because you're talking about something that's so important, and I don't want to just. I think we need a. We really need to emphasize what you're talking about, if you don't mind.
Please.
And when we talk about the changes that are happening now, it sounds like a bunch of words, and then we just keep going. But I'm going to stop and hit my pause button and say, wait a minute, what are we talking about? Because it's important for me to make that extraordinary truth relevant. Um, uh, there are many ways that I could describe it. I'm going to start just by saying that we are really this is such an extraordinary time to be alive. That's number one. Number two, you can't afford to miss how extraordinary it is. You absolutely cannot. Three, it's a privilege to be alive now, and you can't afford not to know that. And so here's why. There'll come a time in decades to come, and none of us will be around for that, when historians will write about this time. And if I had a wish, like one wish, I'd love to see the history books as they write about this era in which we are living. Because it is, I think that they will note that it's one of the rarest, if not the rarest era in the history of humanity, in which when Robert speaks about the end of normal, it's not just the end of normal. It and why is it and what is ending specifically? But in my work, in my observation, we are at the end of being a five sensory creature and becoming a multi-sensory creature. Normal for us, normal for my parents. My normal in growing up was to be educated according to five senses: sight, sound, and that was the world, only to become someone whose entire world and education was based, and occupation was based on being multisensory, on sensing a world I knew nothing about and was never educated about. So I made my way in a multisensory world that this world knew nothing about. Nothing. But I knew that this world was more relevant and more real than this world. This became my new normal. My new normal. But I had I had this is, I believe, happening to everyone. There was nothing extraordinary about me except that maybe I was among the first to be drafted into that journey. Now, opening up and becoming multisensory is happening to everybody, and everybody's experiencing it in different ways. I spent time with someone whose specialty is autism, and I said, I do think that many of the energetic disorders that never existed before, the psychosomatic, energetic, neurological disorders, are occurring because we're expanding this field of perception, this energetic reality, the psychic era, the technical era, the internet era that we've entered into. But our neurological bandwidth is just now opening up to accommodate this, and it's not yet normalized. So the new normal has to accommodate what our energetic senses can perceive, but it's not there yet. Yes?
Yeah, it's
And right. I mean, so when we speak about the end of normal, a, a lot of the chaos in the world is because we're leaving what we could refer to very simply as the fossil era. And we're entering, very simply put, the solar, but I want to spell it SOLAR and SOULAR. The solar, a double entendre, because it is both. We are entering an age when energy will freely flow into the human era and not be regulated by whether or not you're cold or warm or can grow food, but rather an era of abundance as we learn that the nature of God is love, light, and law, not an off planet white man. Okay. So the end of what was normal for human beings, that's going to end. And in that transition, mythologies, myths, so powerful that have sustained this planet for thousands of years, are getting dismantled. And in its place will come the truth that we are one, that we are, this is organic divinity, where all is one. And that will mean that we make very different decisions. Because if I know what is one is in the whole, what I do to one, I do to all. How then shall I make my decisions? That is encompassed in what you just said, my dear friend.
It is, and I thank you greatly, Caroline, because if we're really going to be true to this work, Joseph Campbell was telling us that the hero's journey is really for the second adventure or the second birth of our lifetime. It's a birthing of a new stage for humanity. And for that to happen, it's really in many ways an act of a holy imagination. We have to be that wide open for this journey. That's what makes it so thrilling, so exciting, and I think so relevant for now as well. Absolutely. Caroline, I wonder if we could maybe reminisce a little bit about just how we each found the hero's journey. If we can talk a little bit about that, just for a bit of context. And then after that, we'll really get into having a look at the actual hero's journey in its 3 acts. And then we'll get into some exercises together.
Go ahead. Do you want to begin?
You start. Tell us. Yeah.
I really found the hero's journey, recognized the power of it when I not when I really started the masterful hero's journey of entering this world, but rather when I realized that I was entering a different phase of my life. Still, I did not know, but I was at that age when I recognized I would no longer have children, that it wasn't possible. And that was a very big turning point for me. Big, huge, big, huge. And that was the only time where I really felt age. Yeah. And it turned out, as it turned out, I should say, I was going to speak at a conference in Dingle, Ireland. I do not suffer from depression, right? But I have experienced being depressed. So there's a difference, right? And I really was feeling this sense of sadness. And in a life review, like, what have I done with my life? I've done nothing. I've written books and been alone in hotel rooms. I cannot tell you how awful I felt, how alone I felt. I watched all my close friends, they were on the eight, their kids were growing up, but they would marry, become grandparents. I thought, that's life. What have I got? I've got nothing. I can't tell you how horrible I felt. And um, so now I'm in Dingle. And usually when I go to workshops to speak at conferences, I don't go in and listen to other speakers. I, wander around. But somehow I went in to listen to the speaker. And he was talking about the passages in life and passages into middle age and that kind of thing. And I thought, well, and as I walked by him, I knew he had just come out of a heart attack. I just went, whoosh, and I knew. So I sat and I listened to this wonderful, warm, witty man talking about aging, talking about having almost died, having a quadruple bypass. And he was a Jungian analyst, he was a psychologist, and he was a theologian. He
Wow.
was all of those. He had a doctorate in theology, a doctorate in psychology, and he'd gotten his Jungian certification in Switzerland. And then it turns out he's Irish Catholic from the south side of Chicago. So now I'm glued to him like a duck on a June bug, right? And after his lecture, I went up to him and I said, "Are you taking any more clients?" And he said, I'm not sure. I thought after the surgery, I'm going to take, I said, no, I'm going to do this again. I am going to sit on your porch until you take me as a client. I said, I've never begged anybody. And now I am. And that's what began my time with Tom. This is going to be a little hard for me now because he's passed away this year. But it was in my work with him that I began to identify archetypal patterns, my own, and the power of it, and my own journeys. He helped me to access the impersonal but intimate nature of the universe. And it was when I started to talk about meeting Norm, my other most precious relationship, who passed away 10 days after Tom
Wow.
this year, that as I talked about walking into this world of the unknown, but having met Norm, he's the one who said, had I ever heard of the hero's journey? And I said, as I was describing, I said, everything changed for me, Tom. I mean, I was trying to read data in a world I didn't know existed. I was trying to find my way and I said my whole world was different. My language was different. How I had spent all these years becoming a mystical theologian only to find out everything I studied was, as Thomas Aquinas said, straw, because no one taught me about chakras. Nobody taught me about how the stresses in the human energy system it affected our cell tissue. And he said, well, maybe you're the one who's supposed to teach others. And this was my journey into that. And it was through Tom that he held my hand as I learned the power of this journey, because I walked it with a Jungian analyst who then became my spiritual director.
Tom was your supernatural aid.
Yes, he was. Yes, he
Yeah.
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was. Yeah. And Norm.
Absolutely.
I don't appreciate that they both died 10 days apart. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
And it has, in many ways, Robert, ignited a second hero's journey. I don't know how to live without them. And I'm making my way through that.
Yeah.
And every day it's very difficult for me.
Yeah.
I don't look like it is, but it is. Yeah.
my great spiritual mentor was also called Tom.
Ah,
And yeah, Tom passed away during the months of the COVID lockdown.
mm,
And yeah, the adjustment has been huge. But he was also, yeah, he was my supernatural aid for sure. And you know, on the hero's journey, Joseph says, you know, when you are experiencing the death of normal, when you're beginning a new chapter, you will there will be a call to adventure. There will also be the refusal of the call, and most importantly, there will be supernatural aid. People will appear,
mhm.
and they will
Oh, how
appear. And
true.
Tom, yeah,
How
Tom was
true
clearly
that.
that for you. My Tom appeared for me absolutely at that key moment. And yeah, these days, Caroline, I have to, in my morning meditation, just imagine I'm sitting on a bench with him.
Mhm, mhm.
I can feel that. I can feel that. I still grieve the loss of the physical form for sure. It's terribly hard, you know, but I sit with him on the bench. I imagine I'm sitting on a bench with him every morning as I do my morning practice. But yeah, it's an adjustment, isn't it?
So it's harder than any loss I've ever had in my life, and and
Mm.
I don't really want to make this about that, but it is now a time for me to adjust my life yet again without these two deep soul companions. And you said, you know, it's really true that on the hero's journey, you are provided companions. And I think companions that equal the quality of your journey.
Yes.
And my journey is about identifying what other people cannot see,
Mhm.
what other people cannot hear, what other people find it difficult to believe. And so along the way, I've had a number of what I call mini mystical experiences that have nurtured me and kept me going, as if heaven has said, I'm here, because
Mhm.
my life's alone.
Yeah.
You know, you have a family.
Mhm.
And so even though you lost your companion, you don't. You have a
Mm.
companion.
Yeah.
But I've lost my
Yeah.
companions,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so it's a very different journey.
The death of normal, as we will see, it can happen from a place of pure inspiration. It can be a wonderful thing in that sense, but very often there is a loss.
Mhm.
Um,
How can there
and
not be?
um,
Life is loss. How
yeah,
can there not be?
exactly right. And I know for me, I mean, I found the hero's journey literally, it would have been only a month or so after my father passed away.
Mm,
So I was 25, and he, you know, he was my hero.
was he?
Yeah. But he also, you know, he died before he died. And you know, I was raised really with a mother who had recurring bouts of depression,
Uh,
which were terribly troubling for all of us. This depression would arrive like an unannounced guest, a surprise visitor
mm,
that would take, you know, mum away for days or weeks on end. And actually, literally, she would go to a mental health facility sometimes. Dad, who was the rock of the family, um, this would have been when I was around about 14 or 15. It became clear to us that he was drinking, and he was drinking heavily. And we were very surprised by that. But uh, the drinking, it was obvious, it was very apparent. We asked him to stop, he did, and he started again. We asked him to stop, he did, and he started again. And amazingly, Caroline, I mean, within a short few months, he had really deteriorated. He left home. He lived homeless on and off for the last 10 years of his life. What I found out in that time was that he had served in World War II. He'd gone down in 2 boats off North Africa. Terrible situations, awful situations that he didn't speak of, like nobody ever spoke about
Yeah,
that sort of
right.
thing.
Yeah.
But so he died again and again and again before he died. And but when he did die, and when I for sure felt like I had obviously lost a great love, it really was within weeks of that I was introduced to the hero's journey. And thank God for that, because I mean, I'll even tell you, Caroline, that I felt he somehow arranged for all of that to happen. Yeah. Because once I was introduced to the hero's journey, somehow it stuck. Somehow I knew I was meant to know about the hero's journey. And it stuck with me ever since. It's just been, the greatest gift. But it appeared to me from a time of profound loss, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely, I get it. I just want to add a comment about something. I think we oftentimes think that people can't tell their stories, like my dad at Guadalcanal, or your father off the coast of Africa, whatever, because it's so painful. But I think that's only part of it. I think the other thing is that they can't take the shallow responses from people who don't really appreciate the depth of their suffering or what
Yeah.
they witnessed. When someone
Mm.
said, "Oh wow, do you want to get another drink?" They
Yeah.
can't they can't take the pain of the person who doesn't get what they just shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was with a man many years ago. I'd go to a deli. I'd get lunch there, and I noticed that he spoke one language after another. I said to his wife, "How many languages does your husband speak?" She says, "Who counts?" So I started to eat off hours, and then I noticed he had a tattoo on his arm. He had numbers,
Mm.
and I said, "So how many?" And he limped, and he had been beaten and tortured, and he said he had 4 years at Auschwitz. Anyway, he said he didn't talk about it. He said, "I'll tell you why I don't talk about it." And this this is a form of his hero's journey. He made it out of the camp. He made it to the United States. His cousin picks him up. And he said, I get in the car and she says, "So tell me, how was the war in Europe?" And he looked at her and he said, I told her everything. Everything about the camps, the torture, the killing, the brutality, the fear. And he said, "You know what she did?" She looked at me and said, "Oh, you think you had it so bad there. Here in New York, we got chicken twice a week." He said, "I got out of the car. I never saw her again. And I made my way." He said, "I didn't know what I had to do." He said, "But after
Mm.
what I've been through," he said, I could do anything." And he said, "And I made my way." He said, "But I couldn't take that."
Yeah.
That's why he didn't tell his story.
Hmm.
That was a greater pain.
Yeah.
Was the unconscious human being was more painful.
On the hero's journey, and I think one of the reasons why I like this journey so much, I appreciate it so much, is we are asked to bring everything with us. Everything can come with us. All of our wounds, all of our disappointments, all of our pains, all of our hopes, everything. Bring the whole lot with you. Let's get into a
Go.
bit about the hero's journey, and I think in particular this book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. So Joseph Campbell, immediately after World War One, takes it upon himself to head off to Woodstock. He's going to spend some months and even years in Woodstock, researching all of the great myths of the world. It's a search for meaning. It's a quest for wisdom. He's looking for purpose. He's trying to make some sense of the world. And he is devouring all of the myths from every part of the world. And as he does so, he stumbles across the monomyth. And the monomyth is something that he describes as the story behind all stories. Another name that he has for it is the metamyth. He says, and I'm quoting Campbell here, that the monomyth is a certain typical hero sequence of actions that can be detected all over the world. The monomyth is the one shape-shifting yet marvelously constant story. It's the one deed done by many, many different people. And the monomyth essentially is this, it's the myth, it's the blueprint behind all of the myths. It is the hero with 1,000 faces. This book was published eventually in 1949, so straight after World War II. There were a lot of books that were being published at that time, including In Search of the Miraculous, Uspensky and Gurdjieff and other books that were giving us this. They were providing maps, a way forward for us to evolve out of some sort of carnage and actually create a better world. So the hero's journey, what is it? Joseph Campbell says the hero's journey is a good life. He says a good life is one hero's journey after another. Over and over again, you are called to the realm of adventure and you are called to new horizons. Each time there is the same problem. Do I dare? And then if you do dare, the dangers are there and the help also. There is fulfillment or there is fiasco. He says there is always the possibility of fiasco, but there's also the possibility of bliss. So this is the hero's journey, a life in which we are going to live an overarching hero's journey, but also there will be these other hero's journeys that we take along the way. For example, going to university or college is a hero's journey. Your first day at work in a new job, that's a hero's journey. Starting your own business, going on a date is a hero's journey. Getting
A new
married,
type of friendship.
yeah, absolutely,
Deciding I could be, I normally wouldn't be friends with this kind of person, but why not?
yeah, absolutely right. Especially when we come to realize that some of these friendships are our supernatural aid. They are,
Right. Look how many stories are about two people that are from a different group, different race, different caste, different this, different that, and they become each other's best soul companion.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in that sense, this is the hero's journey that is a love story, a story of true friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah, absolutely right. We'll look at this where we realize there are so many types of heroes, and indeed there are so many types of heroes because, of course, we are all of us included. So yeah, getting married can be a hero's journey. Getting divorced can be a hero's journey. Becoming a parent, children leaving the nest. This might also be the start of a hero's journey. I
Robert,
also,
I think we need to stop and say what qualifies as a hero's journey.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at the three acts of a hero's journey, because I think this maybe will give us a sense of what a journey really is. And the three acts of a hero's journey, these correspond to the three acts of Greek dramatic theatre, for example. And you'll find in Act 1 there is a departure. In Act 2 there is an encounter, a journey, the initiation. And then also in Act 3, there is a return. How about we look at the map of the hero's journey? Let's call up the symbol that we will be working with over these next 7
Mm,
classes.
mm, mm.
Now, this is really, really rich. There's a lot to take in here. So the encouragement here is to relax and don't try and do this all with your head center.
You
You
do the
know,
driving.
yeah. This is like we're going to get to all of this, but fundamentally, the first act is often called the departure. It's a time for new beginnings. It is the death of normal. It is the end of ordinary. It is a time to say yes to some sort of an adventure. And so this is the start of things.
And I want to squeeze that because that's such a huge thought, such a huge introduction, that the end of normal could include it's the end of, for example, you deciding I've got to switch my cuisine. I've got to eat better.
Mhm.
So the end of normal, it could be that I normally would eat fast food. I normally would eat this, but I'm going to cook consciously now. And so, I mean, when we talk about the hero's journey, it's initiating a or stepping onto a path that is individual, that initiates a series then of changes that are linked to that initial end of normal that you didn't see coming. This is what I think we need to first tell people, that this is so that we define what is not a hero's journey.
Mhm.
What is not a hero's journey? Well, if someone said to you, am I on a hero's journey, have you ever said no? Have you ever said, I would say that archetypally no. But the end of normal could be something as it could start out by deciding, like oftentimes in my classes, I'll say to people, you have no idea how powerful your vocabulary is. I want you to just think about one word that you build your life around and you don't realize it. Like, for example, this won't work, won't. And if you decided to stop using won't, what would you, and decided, well, what are you going to say?
Mm.
And you decide that that's the end of you always having a negative first response. That would
Yes.
be the end of a negative normal for you.
Absolutely true. This happened recently for me, Caroline, where I was working with somebody who, look, basically, sh her gift is that she was a psychic from an early age,
Mhm.
and but she grew up with parents who told her whenever she had a hunch that she was wrong.
Oh yeah.
Now, one of those hunches, and this is really big, but her mother was pregnant, so they were expecting another child. The mother went into hospital. She came out of hospital without a child.
Mm.
Something. So she had she had a terrible event happen in hospital. Now the person who's been my client, she was 5 or 6 at the time. She's expecting to be an older sister. So instead, she gets given a teddy bear, and she's told nothing's wrong.
Oh, wow.
Now she knows something's wrong. Her inner voice knows,
Sure.
and knows something's wrong. Psychically, she knows what's happened, but she's told she's wrong. Now, fast forward to today, her favorite phrase is, "I don't know." Whenever she speaks, it's, "I don't know. I don't know." I'd ask her any question, and it's, "I don't know." So our hero's journey is starting with, what if we were to stop saying, "I don't know"?
There you go.
Yeah. That's going to be her hero's journey, and her hero's journey will be to reclaim a gift she was born with.
That I do know. I do know.
Yeah,
That's why I
absolutely
tell
right.
people, make something up, but you do know.
Yeah,
You do
yeah, you
know.
really
First
do.
thought, best thought. Make it up and build from
Absolutely.
there.
And if we go to your first example, I can think of somebody in my family who had an ulcerated colon, and so the first thing that he did was he was asked to adopt a gluten-free diet. I
Mhm.
remember him saying to me, "Robert, what's a gluten-free diet?" Yeah, like, what does that even mean? Anyway, so he starts on his gluten-free diet, and Joseph Campbell talks about there are hero's journey where you follow the scent. You think you're following a scent, the scent of a deer into a forest. You don't know where this is really
Mhm,
leading.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, you think you're adopting a gluten-free diet, but no, no, no. This is
Bingo.
just the beginning.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. You just wanted to save your colon. We're going to save you on this hero's journey.
It's actually the power of choice it's a whole different level of power and choice and self-esteem, and all of this is going to get refined along the way, and you don't get it, but it's going to start out by looking like, I can't have gluten in my bread.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Starts that way. And
Here's my
then,
question to you. Have you ever thought, no, you're not on a hero's journey, to someone?
yes, I've noticed when the people are going through changes, but the changes they are making are usually something to do with more of the same. There isn't a transformation.
Very good. Key.
Yeah.
That's key here.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. There's not a transformation. It's often it would be the change is an inflation of something, but not the transformation of something.
Can you give an example?
I've known people who in the world of work have taken on leadership programs or leadership positions which have ended up being basically just more of the same, but just on a grander scale. So it looks bigger. It looks more important, but actually you can tell that the real challenge of their life still awaits them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this isn't it, and you can tell because their sense of self is still intact. And I think when go on a hero's journey, the person that starts the hero's journey is not the person who comes home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is a change.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Mm-hmm.
change in your sense of self. You are changed. An old image is left behind. Joseph Campbell's favorite metaphor was the snake that sheds its skin.
I
You know,
think I
yeah,
think there's an imprint of authentic empowerment.
yeah,
And when that's not there, like to use your examples of people where the journey's not authentic, are people who postpone, or they describe like, well, procrastinators, or, well, we're going to get around to this, or, they'll make changes that look like change, but it's not. When
mm,
you take stuff in the house and you move it to one side and the other, but you don't actually get rid of it.
yeah, that's right. Sometimes the hero's journey begins when you decide to do something that you told yourself you would never do. For example, I can think of people who eventually decided to learn how to meditate. People who eventually decided to pray a prayer, having promised that they would never pray a prayer again because of the disappointment that they experienced in an earlier time in their life. Sometimes it's those decisions to practice mindfulness because of some sort of maybe mental health issue, where we're just saying, right, I've got to do something. So I will learn to meditate and I will learn to pray. And that's the start of something.
And I think another form of a hero's journey, and then I think we've got to get you to describe this beautiful.
Mm.
I got to stop interrupting you. I promise I will. But I do think that um, that the hero's journey is can start out even by saying, people have often said, "I'll never speak to that person again,"
Yeah,
and
that's
then
it.
they decide, "No, maybe I will," and it's
Yeah,
not even about that. They discover along the way the profound power of their own transformation of heart.
yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, there's as we can see right next to the end of normal, there is this call to adventure. And there is an invitation, and the key is to be open and available to how the invitation is making itself known to you right now. And next to the call to adventure is the refusal of the call, and as we will see, the refusal of the call has some wisdom in it. This is not all bad. Sometimes in the refusal of a call there is it can be a time of grace. It can be a period of incubation where forces are gathering in your unconscious that are going to prepare you for your eventual yes.
Mhm.
And then you will cross the threshold. And as you cross the threshold, that's when you're going to meet your supernatural aid. But essentially, what's happening here in part one is that the old plan for your life is over. You may not know that fully yet, or you might, but Joseph Campbell said this is one of his big teachings, is that we must let go of the life we have planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us.
Now, see, a phrase like that, if you think about how we're describing the hero's journey, like changing your diet, that's to, does that qualify for you must accept that the plan you had for your life is over and a new one's beginning because you changed your diet? I mean, they don't seem equal in drama. I mean, I made the choice to speak to someone again, and it's going to change me because I'm going to learn about myself, but I don't know that that changes the whole plan for my life.
Yeah. Well, the plan, again, look, I think sometimes the hero's journey is a revelation. It's happening to us without us realizing sometimes that we've begun. Other times it's very, very obvious. The hero's journey begins with the death of someone.
Right.
It does. It begins with the end of a job. It begins with a new stage of life, like, for instance, the children leaving the nest.
Mhm.
You know, I think right now, one of the things that really interests me is that when we think about this lifetime, we are all of us living longer than we've ever lived before.
Mm.
It's extraordinary, actually, how much this is happening. And so, therefore, we have more elders on the planet now than ever before.
Isn't that interesting? Yes, that's true.
It's really true. When you think of the old normal, was we'd just about worked out how to do life. We retired and then we died.
Mhm, mhm,
Now we've just about worked out how to do life. We still may have retired, but we're living. We're still here and we're elders and we have something to offer. And it's important that we do. Humanity's got this extraordinary opportunity right now to learn from, be blessed by the experience of the elders. Let's hope this happens, because if ever a species needed the wisdom of the elders, it must be now.
mhm,
So that, for many of us, might be our hero's journey, is to embrace being an elder, to
mhm,
embrace the fact that we're still here, to embrace the fact that we're living longer than our parents, and we're still here, we're still active. We are being called to participate in something.
mhm,
So let's
mhm,
do it. Now, Act 2 is the initiation. This is when we cross the threshold. This is when we go on what Joseph calls the road of trials. Here
mm,
we enter the cave of the innermost self. We will enter the dragon's den. We're going to face our fears, our demons, and our inner blocks, if you like. We will It's a passage of darkness and of defeat and of death. The hero's journey is not a cruise. It's not Disneyland. The journey is not for the faint-hearted. And at the same time, it is a journey of transformation. And Joseph says this: it is by going down into the abyss that we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure. So this is for us to explore together. The third stage, the third act, is called the return. Amazingly, we decide to return from our hero's journey. We don't leave the world. This isn't a path of transcendence. We don't all get beamed up to somewhere else immediately. Actually, this is a path of transformation, and our victory is to do with coming back to the world. First, we claim our treasure, and then we travel on the road back, and we will, by the way, encounter the refusal of the return. There'll be a moment on our hero's journey where we wonder if we want to participate in the world again. Now that we have this new treasure, this new insight, this new gift, perhaps, but we are called to return. And we are called to return with what Joseph called the boon, which is the gift of our journey. And here's the big thing. The whole reason we take a hero's journey is not just for ourselves. We do it so as to serve, to teach, and to inspire everybody else on their hero's journey too. That's why we do this. Joseph Campbell says the hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. That's the work. That's the work.
It's absolutely extraordinary how this journey unfolds in every single person, whether it's on the micro or on the macro. I it's an illusion to think that whether a hero's journey is initiated by something as someone may think I've got to move out and I just want to break away and live by myself and move out and take, that's a hero's journey that looks like you just want to get your own apartment. To actually, it's a journey of empowerment of the highest order.
Yes.
Of taking on how I will see the world through my own windows, how I'll take care of my face my own storms at night, how I'll take charge of myself. So it's much more than what looks like just getting away from my parents and getting an apartment. I want to take on the forces of the world. You know, I mean, so I really do think the decision even to be open to a new idea is a hero's journey,
Yes.
because getting a new idea, what's more powerful than a new truth that makes its way into your head and has the power to illuminate you and change the world? I mean, who was it that said no army can withstand the force of an idea whose time has come? That's how big the power of an idea comes in. It becomes a hero's journey when you get a new truth in your head, and everything, you see the whole world differently.
Absolutely true. Absolutely. We will return to this image again and again. Let's leave it alone for now. But in this class today, I want to really focus on 3 inquiries now that we've started to look at the hero's journey. And the first inquiry really is an inquiry into the journey of your life. One of the questions that I really encourage everybody to explore over these 7 classes is, well, what is the journey of my life?
Mhm.
And this will take a bit of time to think about, but I really would like you to be able to do a bit of biography work where you think about your life up until this point, and to think about the journey you've been on, and to see if you can get a feeling for what has made that journey meaningful for you. The legend of the Holy Grail is essentially the legend of taking a journey. We're all of us taking a journey, and this journey is a journey in outer space and also inner space. It's a horizontal journey across time and space, chronos, but it's also a vertical journey. There's a descent and an ascent, and it's all about kairos. So there is an outer journey and an inner journey, and the question that I really would love everybody to focus on is, what is the journey of my life? If I was to describe the journey of my life to somebody, what would I say? And this is a big question, I understand. And it's not a question that I'm asking everybody to, have a pithy answer to, or even a full answer to. But in the spirit of inquiry, I want that question to be on the table so that you think about the journey of your life. This journey has been described, for example, in A Course in Miracles as a journey without a distance. So it's often a journey really to the center of ourselves. It's a journey which normally has some sort of a quest in it. It's a journey that often has a question in it as well. It can be a quest for wisdom, a quest for love, a quest for truth, and a quest for justice, a quest for healing, a quest for home, a quest for God, a quest for deep, deep peace. What is your journey? What is your quest? Do you know what is it that you are searching for? So this is the first piece that I would just like to land for all of us, is to get a feeling for the journey. If you were to make the journey into an autobiography, what title would you give your autobiography? What would you describe the journey as? A journey from somewhere to somewhere. It's normally some sort of a journey of growth, some sort of a journey of change. It's normally in the journey there is a metanoia, there is a shift. On the journey, there will be a change that you are being asked to make, a change that will change everything. What is that journey? What is that change? So this is the first inquiry, Caroline, that I'd like us to focus on. Any thoughts about that one from you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had to ask myself, what is more important to me, truth or love? Because if I had to summarize,
Mm,
if I had to answer that question, what kind of journey what is my life about? Is it a journey to understand love or a journey to understand truth? Is truth.
yeah.
Truth is a more vital part to me than love,
Hmm.
and because I'm not romantic, I don't have those instincts. I I I am compelled by truth,
Mm,
and 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 I think everything about my life is a quest for my love of truth,
yeah.
which is, you know, my love of wisdom, my love of that realm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm aware I haven't mentioned something, which is also there's another quest, which is also the quest for beauty.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure we're including as many quests as possible here, because these quests, they speak to you. And for some people, beauty is very important. In fact, for some of us, we believe beauty has the power to save the world.
Mhm.
If we could only remember, if we could only see what true beauty is. But
Mhm.
it could be, yeah, the quest for wisdom,
That
the quest.
was Plato believed that.
Yes, yeah,
Plato believed that
absolutely, yeah,
in
absolutely,
virtue and beauty. Absolutely. That's where he collided with Aristotle.
yeah, exactly right. And
Yeah.
these quests, by the way, I think they often are a clue to the archetypes that are going to make an appearance in our life. So the second inquiry for class 1 is, what hero am I? What hero am I? We're going to, really be exploring the hero's archetype. And I want to begin just by really answering this question, which is, the question is, who is the hero in the hero's journey? And Joseph Campbell says a hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself. This is absolutely key. So this is another way you know when you're on a hero's journey. He says that you are the hero of your own story. The hero's journey is inside of you. Tear off the veils and open the mystery of yourself. One more Joseph Campbell quote. One way or another, we all have to find what best fosters the flowering of our humanity in this contemporary life, and then dedicate ourselves to that. So that could be truth, that could be beauty, that could be love. So these are some opening thoughts on what the hero is, and hopefully we get a sense here that the hero is everybody. all of us. We are the hero of our own story. This archetype, Caroline, is so important. And in your book, Archetypes, you actually start the whole exploration of archetypes with an investigation into the hero archetype. Yeah. Would you tell us more?
Well, you've got the book there. So why don't you go ahead and dive in? Because I don't even have my copy of it near me. It's on my shelf. But I'll
Yeah.
go get it while you get it so we're on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, you decided to start right here.
Yep, I did. Good thing I have my books where I know where they are.
The language of archetypes is the universal language of the human soul, psychically uniting us all through with what the psychiatrist Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. One way or another, we are being invited to embrace the archetype of the heroes, of the hero rather, and the heroines. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I started with the hero in this book. Because I was fascinated with how archetypes made their way into the media
Yeah.
and into film and into our movies and the most prevalent is the hero, is the hero warrior, and how people identify with the power of the hero warrior. And that is one aspect of the hero that is
Yes.
magnetic in our society. And and the need, and it speaks to the need in people to want to battle negativity, to want to do battle with a force, and yet but they recognize they don't have the power themselves.
Yes.
I think that's why they identify with these Marvel characters and these larger than life heroes, because they can't do it themselves. But they want that journey. They want to be larger than life. But they don't get that it's the small little hero journey in their own. The capacity to tell the truth is
Yeah.
a hero's journey. The capacity to 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 make that journey and decide. I watched a movie. I can't. I'll remember. Maybe I'll remember. But and in it, the son said, I've got to do this. And the father, why do you have to go live by yourself in the mountains? And he says, because I have to know if I can do it. I have to know if I can do it. And then going and spending the winter in the mountains by himself and seeing if he could live that way. He's facing hunger and he's facing this. But what he taught himself was, I can face anything. It wasn't about the winter. The winter served as the teacher. And that's when he came back and he thought, I had the roughest teacher and now I can do anything.
Yeah.
But these movies are just such false teachers because they just present nonsense of spoiled imaginary heroes that come in and they haven't done anything to earn. Anyway.
Yeah. Because the hero has to embrace a challenge that will undo them. So, it's like I can think of once I was working with somebody who was a CEO of a company, and obviously everything is looking terrific and fantastic. And he showed up for a session one day and he had a book with him, and the book was 1 minute bedtime stories for your children. 1 minute bedtime stories for your children. And I made the point to him. I said, I think you need a new definition of success for your life.
Well done.
Because I'm telling you, if all of this is so that you can do a 1-minute bedtime story with your daughter, bedtime, you have missed the whole
Yeah,
point of your
that's
life.
all the time you have for her?
Yeah, yeah. You've
Yeah.
missed the whole point. And, to his credit, he got it. He
Mhm,
absolutely got it. Yeah.
mhm.
And that's how it is. Sometimes, this is the thing with the hero's journey. You have to be willing to change your mind. I'm actually now thinking of another person who, I asked him what success is for his life, and he says, well, it's to leave a legacy for my 3 daughters. I said, that's wonderful. So how are you doing that? And he told me about all this money he saved up for them.
So he means he wants an
Yeah.
inheritance.
So he had a financial legacy for them. And I said, have you told them about this? Have you asked them, is this the legacy they want? He says, no, I'm just doing this because, this will be for them when I've gone. And then I made the point, well, but a legacy isn't about when you've gone. A legacy is what you build whilst you're still here.
Mhm,
And suddenly his journey, from this conversation starts to change.
mhm,
And now it's a journey about actually daring to be in people's life rather than building some sort of a monument for afterwards. That's what the hero's journey does to us. It asks us to change our mind often about
mhm.
our goals and our journeys and what we think makes sense. And that's a truly heroic act, actually. I think to
Absolutely.
be able to change your mind about yourself, to be able to change your mind about your life,
Mhm.
and to change your mind about the way you thought you have to go about things. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
also I also think to your point, Caroline, as we start out on this journey, I just want everybody to know that the hero's journey really is about you. And it's really about recognizing the hero that you are. Yeah, you might not show up in a Marvel film, but then who the hell does? I mean, really, I'm not, there are plenty of us who watch Marvel films, um, who are still scared to show their partner how they really feel. I
Mhm,
mean, it's
mhm,
like conquer the whole universe, but we still can't have a brave conversation with somebody, in the next moment. So we need to think about what it really means to be a hero. And for example, a hero can be somebody who's on a healing journey.
mhm.
Being
Oh,
on a healing journey is
absolutely. One of the
that,
most common, I think,
yeah,
a
that's
healing.
heroic.
Mhm,
Anybody who's willing to change the story of the family is on a hero's journey. Anybody who's willing to, I was working with somebody recently who said, look, I have a goal in life. I would like to be the first man in my family that doesn't leave his wife and children.
mhm, mhm,
He's on a hero's journey.
mhm, mhm.
The hero's journey might be a creative journey.
It could be a
Um,
journey of sobriety. I'm the first one to not be an alcoholic.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly right. Um, on the creative journey, I'm thinking of Otto Rank, the fantastic psychologist Otto Rank, who said that the artist is somebody who wants to leave behind a gift for the world.
Mhm,
So being on a hero's journey is sometimes about taking a creative journey and recognizing your soul gift. A hero's journey might begin with journaling,
mhm.
just beginning to write and
And
seeing where your writing takes you.
I think before we run out of time here, I want to ask you or to get your response to everybody is on a multitude of heroes' journeys in their
Mm,
lives, hero journey, whether or not they realize it.
yeah,
And this is about real recognizing the journey
yeah,
or of actually recognizing I'm on a solo journey that will transform me in some way, my thinking, my how I really because that's all life is a constant experience of transformation.
yeah,
But by
absolutely.
recognizing that, wait a minute, this is a journey. What that helps you to do is recognize that a journey, by virtue of it being archetypal, has stages, has a sequence of passages.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so rich to understand these. Like, where am I? All right, I'm at the end of normal. So after normal comes this, and then I'm going to fight it, and then I'm going to do that. There'll be stages. I mean, think about if you decide, that's it. I'm done neglecting my nutrition. I'm going to start on a diet. You know that you will face that obstacle, which is I'll start cheating on my diet. I know I'm going to face that.
Yeah.
So if you know that that's also part of the hero's journey, you know that it is inevitable that you will get into this desert field, this long, the actual long transformational trek,
Yeah.
which is one stage at a time, and then comes the outcome.
There we go. And you might think in the beginning that, okay, this gluten-free diet, all it's going to take is willpower.
Right.
Yeah. But along the way, you're going to be defeated.
Mhm.
And when you're defeated, you have a choice. You can give up or you can hand it all over to a higher power.
That's right.
And now you know you're on your hero's journey because willpower will get you halfway there.
Mhm.
A higher power is going to bring you home.
Right.
Higher power is going to bring you home. So everybody is on a hero's journey. The question I have for you here is what hero am I? What matters to me? And
Mhm.
here's the key. If you really want to know about your hero's journey, what is it that brings you alive?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that brings you alive? Joseph said, we are not searching for the meaning of life. What we're searching for is an experience of aliveness.
Mhm.
Once you are alive, you won't want to bother yourself with what the meaning of life is because you'll be living it. So it's all about a sense of aliveness. What is it that ignites you? What gets you going? One more inquiry for now. Big one. So far, what is your journey? What is your quest? What is your holy grail? Do you know? Second, what sort of a hero are you? What sort of a hero would you like to be? What is it that brings you alive? Last idea for now. What is my myth?
Mm.
What is my myth? The universe is made of stories, not of atoms. Says
Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that
What's
great? This is
what's
the
my
one.
story?
Yeah. What is my story? And Joseph says this. I love this, Caroline. He says, life is like arriving late for a movie, having to figure out what was going on without bothering everybody with a lot of questions, and then being unexpectedly called away before you find out how it ends.
Ah.
It's so well observed. Come on, we can all relate to this.
That's fantastic.
It is, isn't it? Here we are. We find ourselves in the middle of a story, and what we have to work out is what is that story that speaks to us, the great story that inspires us, the great story that we want to be part of. And on that note, I want to share with you something that Carl Jung said, something that I wrote up in Higher Purpose. Carl Jung said this: the most important question anyone can ask is, what myth am I living? And he said, I asked myself, what is the myth you are living? And found that I did not know. So I took it upon myself to get to know my myth, and I regarded this as the task of tasks. I simply had to know what unconscious or preconscious myth was forming me. These words, they are delicious, especially that last line.
And how did he do that?
I simply had to know what unconscious or preconscious myth was forming me. He paid attention to his life.
And
He
what did
paid
he
attention.
conclude?
He paid attention to his life. We know what he did. He dived into the spirit of the depths. He went to find his own center.
And what myth did he finally conclude?
Well, I think the myth, interestingly for him, his father was a priest.
Yeah.
And this wasn't a myth he wanted to live. He didn't want to take on that myth. He knew he wanted. He one of the great things about Carl Jung is that he remained undefined. I really appreciated this about Carl Jung. He was not going to define himself as any one thing. And I think this was so that he could make himself available to the unconscious. And honestly, eventually, I think we discover his myth ultimately in the Red Book, that is published 50 years after his death, the Red Book that is a write-up of his journals, and it is to be reacquainted with his soul. More than anything, I think that Carl Jung was looking to be reacquainted with his soul and live a truly soul-centered life. I think that was, as much as anything, the myth that really inspired him.
Well, define myth.
Mm-hmm. So the myth is the great story that is, and there are many of them that are happening in the world. For example, at this time, I would say the rise of women in leadership positions. That's a great story, a great change, a great happening in the world right now. Would you like to be part of that myth, for example? That would be a myth that you might want to be part of. I think another great myth that's happening in the world right now is we're making a shift from having a job, having a career, to having a purpose. More and more of us are feeling like we would like to live a purpose-centered life. This is a great story, a great happening. We don't just want to be a corporate slave, a term Joseph Campbell used. We got to be more than that. We have to be a person who brings life to the world. And in a sense, that might be our great myth. What do you think of as a myth?
Because I associate myth with something that is rooted in a God belief.
Mm-hmm.
In a God belief. To me, like the idea that there's now this active feminism, that's a social construct.
Mm-hmm.
But a myth is an eternal
Yes.
story that is rooted in some belief about God involvement in a human being's life. The myth that God protects me and that I was born for something special is a God myth.
Mm-hmm.
Is a God myth that my God is better than others and therefore da 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 is a God myth. These are God myth stories that our land is protected by God is a God myth story.
Okay, now this is myth, I would say, with a lowercase m. This is the myth that's a lie.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
those are to me are personal narratives
Yes. Yeah.
that we create narratives for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
our personal story, our personal archetypal stories.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the myth with a capital M is that great story that is happening in creation that I want to be part of.
Right.
And Carl Jung makes the point that actually you don't choose this myth. Actually, this myth chooses you. In the same way, I think it's true with archetypes. You don't just go
Right.
to an archetype store and say, I'll have this one
Right.
and that one today.
Right.
Thank you very much. Like
Yeah.
these archetypes have
Yes.
got you.
I think with those great myths, we incarnated with threads to them
Yes.
already active.
Yes. Exactly right.
Absolutely.
Our work, I think, at this point in our journey together is just to say, let me think about the stories that truly inspire me, the myths, the stories of old,
Right.
the ones that really do have my attention.
Right.
And let's, and yeah, I want to say a lot of these myths have got closed down by modern education.
Totally.
Yeah.
But they've made their way into movies and they make their way into, because you can't close down archetypal myths. They'll
Exactly.
find their way into something.
Absolutely right. And when Joseph Campbell, wrote The Hero with a Thousand Faces, I think initially he was hoping that this work would inspire psychologists and philosophers. Actually, it inspired storytellers.
Mhm.
Storytellers like George Lucas,
Right.
storytellers who were saying, well, what is the new myth for this age? What is the great story for now
Mhm.
that's going to help humanity reimagine itself? The story that we can all be part of, each in our own way, that will make a difference and help essentially humanity take this longest stride of soul ever took.
Or took.
Yeah.
Which is why we should talk about wizards,
Hmm.
vampires, all of these all super powered heroes that activate our imagination because that's the nuclear power of our soul.
Yeah.
So, but we'll save that for another discussion.
Oh my
Our next
God.
class is on the end of normal,
We're
which
really going to get into it.
it's just going to be delicious. So,
Yep.
what a pleasure! We can't stop talking.
I know. I tell you what, this is huge. I just hope everybody gets a feeling firstly for our excitement, and also our gratitude to everybody for taking this journey
Thank
with
you.
us. And we've laid the table. The encouragement in your journaling is to think about that journey that you're on, the hero that you'd like to be, the story, the conversation happening in the world that really inspires you. Make a note of that and get ready. Because, Caroline, as you say, in class number 2, we're going to hit the death of normal and we're going to look at the call to adventure, and the journey truly begins.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love teaching with you. Thank you, everybody. See you for the next class.
See you then.